Good morning, everyone, and thank you for attending this morning. I will get my slides up. I'm going to type also a Padlet in the chat here so that you can fill it out. We'll come back to this at the end here because I don't want to spend a lot of time here. So we only got 22 minutes, and we will go forward here. All right. So again, this is talk is burnout prevention for health science librarians. Again, I'm David Brown, and I am with the University of Wyoming and the network of the National Library of Medicine, Region 4. So my agenda today is we're going to talk about what self-care is, some of our life roles that we work through, some examples, some commandments that I like to follow, and we can all follow, some reflection, and if we have time, we'll do some icebreaker debrief there as we go forward. So how do we define this? Going back to the Oxford Dictionary, it's the practice of taking action to preserve or improve one's health. So again, things that we do in our work is helping people improve their health. And that's one of the things, those actions that we're going to take as we go forward. And that practice of taking an active role in protection of one's own well-being and happiness. So again, we tend as librarians to do the first thing very well, maybe not necessarily the second thing as well. And that's not just in librarians, that's in almost every helping profession that I've known or I've worked with over my careers. So again, a couple of cartoons I like to throw in here. There's different perspectives in life where we have the glass is half full, the glass is half empty, half full, no wait, half empty. Where are we in this? And the whole idea that I ordered something completely different than a glass of water. So why is it important? We look at it at avoiding burnout, really making ourselves feel better, working forward and going along with our ideas, become more productive. Again, when we're relaxed, when we're rested, when we have a high social experience, we're going to be more productive in our work, with our families, with our life, and happier, and we're going to be less stressed, hopefully. I mean, that's the thing. And another good mantra I like to say is we can't pour from an empty cup. So again, we can only be as full as we are. And then when we are pouring or giving our energy out there, we have to have enough in our tanks to be able to fulfill the others as we go forward. And then again, going on that whole idea, I like to go to wellness, based health organization, where it's this whole idea of a complete physical, mental, and social well-being. It's not merely the absence of disease or infirmary. It shouldn't be anything new to us as medical librarians, but the idea here is that if we're going to be providing the best services to our patrons and our constituencies, we do need to have our own wellness in check as well. Or another way to looking at it is a conscious, self-directed, and evolving process of achieving full potential. So again, being at that highest level of success of moving forward and dealing with this. And I do know that COVID and all these other things that are thrown at us in this current day and age make it tough to achieve optimal wellness, but that's always the goal that we look at it. Again, I like to look at it from a 6-dimensional approach here. I mean, nothing new here. Where we look at all these intersections between the emotional, the occupational, the physical, the social, the intellectual, and the spiritual domains to really understand how we are well. And again, if one of these things isn't in conjunction or is out of whack, we can definitely move it forward, and we can definitely look at it as we go along here. And it's again, this is a very holistic approach. We definitely like to look at it from a larger perspective, and really understand how to be well, what wellness is, and where we're trying to go as we continue along. And again, as I said, there's 6 dimensions. So, okay, so self-care is usually a combination of our physical wellness, which is, sleep, exercise, and nutrition. It's calming for our body. It's health through movement and music. And that's the whole idea of we need to move, we need to be in touch with ourselves, as well as listen to what's around us, listen to the music that the nature creates and music that our bodies create as we go forward. And then we have the emotional wellness, that's turning into your emotions, understanding your emotions, understanding that, hey, I may have too many things on my plate right now. And how am I going to deal with it? What am I going to do? Who am I going to ask for help? Turning into those things to really take a better approach and move us forward as we go along, and exposing emotion in a healthy way. Sometimes we have emotions, and that's good. And sometimes we don't express them very well. Sometimes we take it out on our spouse or significant others, or sometimes we take it out on our kids or our families. And again, not that that's a good thing, but we also have to realize, how can we take it out? What can we do? What can we do to express our emotion positively? How can we move it forward? And where are we going as we look at it? And, and it's self-reflection and self-awareness. Again, having a higher sense of self, having a higher sense of purpose really helps you here to really move you forward and look at it, to really hopefully be reflective and understand where you're in this position. And if you end up in that position again, how you may prevent it in the future, or how you can help others that get into the same situation moving forward. And then we have the collective wellness, curiosity in our own work, collaborating with those from other professions, getting involved. Then we have our spiritual wellness of, religious practices, which we don't always have to do. Connecting with nature is good, meditating, and the social wellness of friends and family, peer relationships, attending social gatherings, and then our occupational wellness, job interest and value, using your own talents and skills, and job satisfaction. And if we do all these things, some of these things we as librarians do very well. Other things, we can use work on, and that's okay. We're always trying to evolve. We're always trying to learn. We're always trying to grow as we move forward, as we engage, and as we look at things in those different areas. So again, all these sort of domains work together. There's not one that's integral to one thing, but all of them work together. They all work in tandem as we go along. So depending on where we are in our lives, we have different roles. So again, we have some students with us, I'm sure, that are in library school. So they have some specific roles, or we have been as students ourselves, and maybe even continue to be students of lifelong learning. So we have responsibilities, such as attending classes, attending events. We have weekly assignments that we have to do, projects that we work on, deadlines that we are approaching. So again, those are all responsibilities that we have to deal with. Those responsibilities don't necessarily make it possible to work with it, but it's where we're trying to go as we look at it. Now, again, more of us are in our professional careers become scholars. So what are we going to do as a scholar? We have to conduct research. We have to write papers. We have to, run experiments. We have to find publishing opportunities. We have to co-author with our co-authors, meeting publication deadlines, and all these things. So again, a lot of stress put on us as scholars to moving forward. And again, how are we going to deal with that? How are we going to work across that and move forward as we do all these things? And, preparing for the job market for some scholars that are new scholars, or also looking to advance in their own field. Then, some of us are just where we are and we just have a life, and that's okay. So are we single? Are we married? Do we have a partner? Are we in some relationships? Do we have children or do we not have children? Each one of these things makes a difference for us. Do we have pets? Do we not have pets? Do we have some hobbies that we like to do? Do we have a part-time job? Do we have a full-time job? Again, each one of these things has different responsibilities. And then of course we have our expenses as we look forward. So what is this whole idea? First thing we have to do is we have to set our good boundaries. So again, we need to know what's our limit, how far can we go, what is expected, where can we go, what can we do in a normal day. We have to set those boundaries. And again, sometimes we as healthing professionals don't do that so well, but that's a good goal for us to achieve and move forward as we go along. We have to embrace our total self. What are our strengths? What we need to know our strengths. We also need to know what our vulnerabilities are. Not everybody's perfect in everything. Some people have really good strengths in some areas, and some people are very vulnerable in others, and that's okay. Exercise and play regularly. That's another good thing, is we need to get out. We can't just be locked in front of a computer, locked at a desk, locked in all those things. I know in the last 2 or 3 years with the pandemic, a lot of us were working from home, and we didn't necessarily do that exercise and play regularly. So again, maybe our self-care was a little bit more damaged in the process. We have to know what relaxes us. What works for me might not work for you. Meditation and yoga may work for one person, whereas deep breathing and taking a 5-mile hike is going to be something more cathartic for somebody else. Again, we have to know these things so that we can work forward, so we can do what we're going to do and where we're going as we look at it. We have to make a lot of the simple thing is making a checklist of small projects that you can definitely complete within a day. So again, setting goals, setting short-term goals so that you don't just have this long list of all these things that need to be get done. Set shorter term goals. Say, hey, this is what I'm going to get done today. If I do it, I'm feeling better about it. I can go home and I can accomplish another thing the next day. And again, the other thing is reaching out to people, networking. Again, we're all at a conference here. It's a good opportunity to network, to work together and look at all these things as we move forward and as we look at each other in these environments and in these areas. So, I mean, it comes back to this whole idea is, like I say, what has been our chief stressors so far? And again, everybody's going to have a different answer to this. And again, how do we deal with it? What are we looking at as stress? And how do we relax, and that's really what we try to do, how we relax, how we take care of ourselves, how are we going to move forward, and how are we going to live our best life as we can. Things to think about and engage us as we go forward. So now we've talked about all that, we've done all these definitions here. What are the costs if we don't do this? What are our risks? What do we put ourselves in for here? So very straightforward is like we run a risk of depletion, losing perspective, and burnout if we do not focus on activity that truly renew us. So again, we don't want to be burned out. We've seen it within the health sciences and helping professions, a lot of burnout due to COVID, due to short staffing, low pay, all those factors that we look at. We have to focus on the activities that are going to truly renew us and move us forward as we go forward. Or another way we can look at it is any idiot can face a crisis. It's this day-to-day living that wears you out. And that comes from Chekhov. And again, it's just an idea that, we can always work in a crisis mode. We do it well. But, how do we do this? What are we going to do to not wear ourselves out in that day-to-day? So how do we get into it? We identify avoidance and show up to the ongoing challenges and stressors. We commit to self-care moves. So what are we going to do? I'm going to do these things. I'm going to make a contract with myself or with my family that we're going to do this, and people are going to call me out if I don't do it. And that's a big step to take. Focus on activities that increase flexibility, and that can be mentally, physically, and emotionally, that we look at our activities that we're trying to do to be more flexible. No one model exists, and there are many different ways to practice it. So what works for me won't necessarily work for you. What works for others may not work for me, and that's okay. And that's the individual piece of this that we look at as we move forward. And, differences may relate to personal history, gender, and stage of life, and that's perfectly acceptable. We are all different, we are all human, and we all are individuals in this process that we go forward and look forward as we go along. So what are some examples? You can take some quiet walks by yourself, just getting out there, moving forward as we look at things going forward. We can do little meditative periods, waiting for something, a cancellation of a session, a brief illness, are opportunities for quiet, reflective, peaceful time. And there's nothing wrong with that. And that's perfectly acceptable to look at, taking those times to just take, 5-10 minutes out of your schedule to really engage and really look at where we're going as we look at these things. There's time and space for meditation, reading spiritual fiction, biographies. Again, that's something we as librarians like to do, is read. And that's a good way of doing it, just taking some time, but not just reading for our own growth, but also reading for understanding, learning, growing emotionally, physically, and socially. So, yoga and stretching is great too. One of the easier things to get into. You can move, you can stretch, you can deep breathe. You get yourself focused, you get yourself with positive self-affirmations, positive directions, and things that we can do to move us along. And, opportunities to laugh in the company of cheerful friends. And that's, I think, great with networking, great with mentoring, great with conferences. I mean, again, that we're seeing, and it's glad that we're starting to move more back to seeing people in person. So again, that's where we try to do it. We can re-energize, we can refocus ourselves, and we can move forward as we look at everything. And, listening to music is another example. So we're getting to closer and closer to my time here. So I'm going to go through my 10 commandments here. So 1, don't expect anybody to reduce your stress. 2, do not resist change. Resisting change is just going to add more stress to yourself. Take thyself in vain. Never, understand where you are, understand your limits, explain to yourself, remember what is holy to you. I mean, and that's the thing. What are your holy sacraments? What are your holy approaches that you have to look at to be healthy and happy for yourself? Honor thy limits. So know what your limit is, and that's okay to know what your limit is and stick to it. You should not work alone. Again, teams are important. Working as a collaborative group and helping each other is important. And don't take it out on others. Again, it's so easy sometimes to take it out on a subordinate or to take it out on a family member or a child. And that doesn't do anything. That all that does is exacerbate the problem usually in this process. And you should work, you should work smarter, not harder. Again, we have a lot of tools to do that. And I think we as librarians try to show our constituencies in health sciences how to work smarter and not harder. So we ourselves can take the lesson from that and learn how to work smarter for our own self and moving forward. And, and we have to seek and find joy and mastery in our work. And that is okay. And I think we do that as health science librarians. We do like to master and learn and become more engaged in this. So I think this is one we do a pretty good job at. And, we need to continue to learn as we go forward. And we shouldn't expect someone else to reduce our stress. Between stimulus and there's space, and that's the space to choose our response, to be able to grow and to move forward as we look at our freedom. And what does it look like to you? It's your self-compassion, it's your reframing, it's your gratitude and appreciation, it's your humor, it's your financial goals, it's time for yourself, it's sleep, it's food, aligning your values, and it goes on and on. Got a couple more resources here, and I have shared my slides, so you can always go find these as we go along here. And my parting words here is going to be, may you find peace in your life through the use of positive self-care approaches. And that's really what we're trying to get at, is really improve ourselves, move forward, and look at where things go as we go along. And I hope I was under 22 minutes here, and I will let Dana take over.
Thank you, David.
Actually, we have Q&A for you first.
Oh, all right, no problem.
You still have a little bit of time.
A little time. Okay, so we'll do the debrief then. So I will share my Padlet then. I was trying to keep it on time.
Yeah, we started you at 9:05, so you have from there 22.
All right, very good, very good. I didn't know for sure. I was doing it at, so we got like 3 minutes. All right.
Yeah.
So I will share my Padlet back here. So let's see what we got here. And I'm glad, and the way I like to use this is it can be anonymous. I'm glad we got some participation here. Doing it for the enjoyment, quiet time alone, balance and work leisure. I mean, yes, all these things work, they're good. And that's for you. That's your personal way to take it and look at it and work across it as you go along. You go to Starbucks and then walk around Target. That's a great thing, hike, get out there. Take a walk around campus during work days. That's a great thing, especially when the weather's nice, which is early fall is usually good, but some other times we don't always get there. Take all my vacation time, leaving no days on the table. Be nice if we could all do that, but sometimes we're not all able to do that as we go forward. Jigsaw puzzling, very good. Like I say, all things that we can work with, all things we can use as we go along. And what is your employer or, again, flexible work from home? Yes, that's good. Checking in with you, more flexible with work from home. Yes. Encouraging time off. Very good. I mean, these are all great things that are good. And I'm glad that we're seeing, that's one thing that the pandemic has allowed us to do, is to offer more work from home option, or not having to be on a campus or in an office 5 days a week, 40 hours a week. So that is a great change here. So I appreciate all your time. So I'm open to questions. If anybody wants to unmute, I will stop sharing and we can just go back to the big group here. Even comments. It doesn't have to be a question per se.
I don't see any comments in the questions in the chat, but you got lots of good conversation.
Very good. And that's what we want to have. That's what we want. We want to have this conversation. Oh, yeah, Rebecca, you have your hand up.
Oh, I think it's muted, Rebecca. Can't hear you.
I want to put a plug in for Trisha Hersey's book, Rest is Resistance. So I put the link in the text. She's actually speaking specifically to African American and people of color about taking rest back and not being worked hard. But I think it actually applies to everybody as well. So and it fits in really well with this talk and with having boundaries. And so thank you very much for this.
Well, thank you for your sharing your resources. Any other questions? Or I think we're pretty much at time now. All right.
Well, we might have more time at the end of this if
Yes,
anybody
okay.
has anything for you.
Yeah, that's fine.
Thank you.
That's fine.
Thank you very much, David, for your presentation. We've got one more paper for this paper talk or paper session. So next we have piloting a buddy program for new hires with Dana Abbey from the University of Colorado Anschutz presenting, and she's got lots of other authors, which I'm sure she has on her slides, so I won't go through and name off every single one of them. But take it away, Abby, if you're ready to share your screen.
Thanks, Elizabeth.
I mean, Dana. Oh, what's going on?
It happens all the time. All right, thanks everybody. So I'm here to talk to you today in my role as a faculty member at the Strauss Health Sciences Library. And we piloted a onboarding program for our new hires. And onboarding is important because it acclimates new hires to their role, the organization's philosophies, and what the organization has to offer. And it also engages new hires and existing employees, creating workers that are committed to the organization's success. And it helps retain new hires to make them feel like a member of the team. But based on several recent surveys, onboarding can fall short of that. So I plowed through the research, and it looks like oftentimes onboarding programs fail. They fail the new hire and they fail the organization. From the organization side, it costs a lot of money to onboard somebody, to bring on a new staff member. But as far as the new hire was concerned, over several surveys, only 12% of new hires felt the onboarding process was good. And I think the next statistic is really kind of horrifying, and hopefully we can improve the retention of our new hires, because 31% of new hires left their position after 6 months, and 68% of those left after 3 months. So that's a lot of turnover. That's a lot of staff time and resources and money spent when we could do things better and get people acclimated and feeling like part of the team from the get-go. Another statistic that was kind of shocking to me is about 30% of companies don't have a structured onboarding program at all. So people are just kind of off doing onboarding willy-nilly, which is kind of precarious when it takes about 8 to 12 months for a new hire to feel really proficient at the job that they're doing. So you don't want them to feel lost immediately when they start their job. So for those of you who have not had the opportunity to come to the Anschutz Medical Campus, this is a picture of our library with our typical beautiful Colorado blue skies. It's a lovely building. So a little bit about the library itself. We're not an extremely small shop. We're not an extremely large shop. We have about 35 librarians and paraprofessionals. We serve the clinical, research, educational, and community outreach missions of the Anschutz Schools of Medicine, Dental Medicine, Pharmacy, the College of Nursing, the Graduate School, and the Colorado School of Public Health. And we also work in partnership with the University of Colorado Health and Children's Hospital, Colorado. And we are the largest academic center in the Rocky Mountain region. So here's a little bit of information on our turnover rates. So we have, in the last 5 years of data, from 2017 to 2021, we averaged around 5 vacancies a year. So about 14% of the overall staff. And the staff departures fell in primarily 3 different categories. The individual either retired, they left for family related reasons, or they decided to pursue another opportunity. So when we're looking at doing onboarding, there are several layers of relationships that a new hire has when they come into an organization. So they will have their supervisor who works directly with them, orienting them to their specific job duties, their daily activities, and what their performance expectations are. The mentor, if the organization has a mentorship program or a mentoring option, it really looks to help new hires with role-related advance in kind of a longer-term career development program. And a buddy program is primarily a short-term opportunity for new employees, and it requires really no special training as a buddy. Mentors usually go through some kind of training that helps them understand their role and the role of the mentee. So at our library, at the Strauss Library, staff didn't really like the term mentor. They really wanted something that wasn't as formal. So that's why we decided to go with the buddy program. So what was the purpose of our pilot? The pandemic really gave us an opportunity to have to think about how we hire people in a new way. So traditionally, the hiring process and the onboarding of new hires was done in person. And the shift to an online environment meant that our new hires would miss out on experiencing the physical environment of the library, the office or the space that they would be working in, and the campus at large, just understanding how to get to parking and where's there to eat and what's there to do on campus. And also there's a lot of interpersonal connections that are made within the unit, just kind of casually walking around the building and around campus that the new hires right now aren't getting. So this program, this pilot, was meant to supplement but not replace any of the formal training or onboarding requirements and activities that would be completed by the new hire supervisor or by our human resources department. So we wanted to provide the new hire with somebody that they could go to get a sense of the institutional culture, to get a sense of the physical space. Since we're not getting any, the new hire and the staff aren't getting a lot of visual cues that you normally get with in-person communications. We could pair somebody up with somebody that might be able to fill in some of those gaps. And hopefully it could provide some kind of peer-to-peer relationship building. And with a buddy, it's sort of a more casual relationship. So if a new hire had a question that they felt they would be uncomfortable asking their supervisor, and not because they are embarrassed of the question, but a lot of new hires feel like they need to come into a job knowing everything. And if they don't know something, maybe they'll think that that was a bad hire. So we wanted to create an atmosphere where people could ask any question. It didn't even have to be job related. It could be university related. It could be career related, whatever the topic would be. We didn't want to put any kind of restrictions on what kinds of conversations could occur between the buddy and the new hire. So we launched our program in 2021. We've had 5 pairings since the launch. 3 have been completed and 2 are currently ongoing. When we have a new hire, the supervisor puts out a call for people who are interested in being a buddy for the new hire. And depending on people's availability, how many people are going to be around, the supervisor might get 1 or 2 people, they might get 5 people, and then they will determine who they think the best fit will be for the new hire. And then both the participants and the buddy receive guidelines for the pilot. And we'll talk a little bit about how we designed that. So this is kind of loose guidance. Again, there weren't any strict rules. There are no contracts being signed. It's very casual, but we did want to provide people with some kind of guidelines because it was a new project. We hadn't done it before at our library, just to give them some guidelines, but they certainly had enough latitude to change any of these things that they did. But I think for the first 3 partnerships and pairings in the pilot project, everyone pretty much followed these guidelines. So for the first 2 months, the buddy and the new hire would meet 30 to 60 minutes every other week. And this was all done virtually. And in months 3 to 4, they would meet 30 to 60 minutes once per month. So the intent of the program is, again, that it would be short term. The commitment would not be for longer than 4 months. But, you know, at the end of the 4 months, it was completely okay if the new hire and the buddy wanted to continue the relationship past the pilot program. And so I participated as one of the first buddies. And I can say that I really let the new hire drive the content of our meetings. Although I always had in the back of my mind, you know, if the new hire doesn't have anything at that time that they need to talk about or have questions about, I'll have 2 or 3 things that maybe I can address, you know, to help the conversation go. But we didn't have any specified content for any of the meetings. So we did send out a survey to the buddies and to the new hires and asked them what they thought about the program. So we used a short Qualtrics questionnaire. We had about a 83% response rate. So 5 out of 6 responded. And I think overall the feedback was very positive. People really liked having somebody that they could go to, that they could ask a variety of questions in a non-judgmental setting. Not that their supervisor is judgmental, but it really took the pressure off them, not feeling like the new hire had to know everything the first day that they walk in. People really liked having a go-to person other than the supervisor, and sort of somebody that they felt that they could start building a relationship with for maybe a long-term collaborations or other working with them for other projects that were going on in the library. And I think one of the things that came out of the program was one of the buddies wished that they could have had this program when they started. So I think that's really telling that people who are serving as the buddies would actually like to have had a buddy. And so I hope that going forward, as we get more body of evidence of how it's working and what we need to tweak, that we can maybe go back and retroactively, pair people up with a buddy, even though they've been working there for 20 years. So we also asked the buddies what they would like to see changed in the program. And so what we wanted to make sure of is that the buddies felt comfortable asking any questions, and that we would have a conversation with them saying, do you want me to share this question or this comment with your supervisor? I, as a buddy, didn't want the new hire to feel like I was just feeding all the information that I got from them to the supervisor. I would always ask their permission first. Hey, that was a great question. Is it okay if I ask your supervisor to get some feedback on that? Scheduling sometimes was difficult with us all working kind of virtually. Some of us were coming into the library, some of us weren't. So trying to get the schedule down with all the other training that the new hire is involved with those first few months. So that was kind of a challenge for some people. And because we are a small shop, sometimes it's difficult to get a peer-to-peer relationship. It might be somebody that is in a higher position or a different position, maybe a staff versus a professional position. So sometimes we're not able to pair people up with an exact peer just because of the size of our organization. And then somebody thought that maybe we could extend the buddy program for an entire year. And so that's definitely something that we can think about as we go forward. So we also asked the participants what they thought the value of the buddy program brought to the library. Like, why should the library continue doing this? And one of the respondents said it was really fun to be around a new hire and remember the excitement of starting a new position. So it sort of re-energized the buddy and really helped them get back into that idea generation mode. Another person liked that it fostered that interdepartmental collaboration, because even when we were not working virtually because of the pandemic, a lot of us work very solo, but our library offers lots of opportunities to work with other departments like IT or collection development or the access department. So we're constantly cross collaborating with those units, and this project allowed people, allowed the buddy to introduce them to those other units and other possibilities for working in partnerships. And some people liked it because it was just a more relaxed meeting, a relaxed partnership building with somebody. And getting back to what David was talking about with burnout, hopefully this program will really make the employees feel welcome and will help kind of alleviate that burnout of that initial like stress of starting a new job. A lot of our employees are moving into the state, so they have to get used to a new environment, a new home. They maybe don't have any friends readily available to them. So hopefully this program will help really build relationships for them to feel comfortable and want to stay around for a while. And the last person thought it made them feel very welcome and prepared as an employee. And they plan on staying at the library a very long time. And if we think back to the amount of money and time that is spent to onboard somebody, this is what we want. We want employees who are happy We want employees who are productive and feel a part of the team and want to contribute to the team. So our next steps are to continue soliciting feedback from current and future participants. We have a few more job vacancies coming up, so we'll have more opportunities to have the buddy partnerships. We want to find more proactive ways to address program improvements. And, you know, what I'd really like to do, although I'm still trying to wrap my head around it, is how could we utilize a metric to measure if the program really does improve our retention rates? And then we want to, again, explore expanding the program to all of our staff, regardless of whether they were hired 20 years ago or 2 days ago. So I think that would be a really fun project to go back and give everybody a buddy. So a huge thanks to all my co-authors. These are folks who either came up with the formal document that we use to help guide the process. They either participated as a buddy or they are a new hire. So, and they're all still, for the most part, they're all with us. One person has taken on a new role elsewhere, but it was really great to work with all of them. And again, I provided these slides for everybody. So if you want to go back and look at any of the works that were cited, the statistics on onboarding, if you need anything if you want to start a program like this at your institution and you need some statistics on why it would be important to do something like this. This is a lot of the newest research that's out. And so just a really big thank you to all of you, and I will stop sharing.
You do have, and I can read them off. You do have a few questions in the chat. And then if anybody has other ones, we'll do those next. So Emily Vardell asks, I'm curious if people asked about benefits, like asking the mentor which health insurance options works well for people at the university.
I don't believe, I can't say for sure that that's one of the questions because I didn't meet with all of the new hires. That was not a question that I got. We have a business manager that meets with new hires in the library, and she is really good about explaining benefits. But then the university also has a lot of information.
And then we have one from Sean Steidinger. Does the buddy have any role in assessing performance and passing on info to the supervisor?
No, and that's one of the benefits I think to the program is we're not tied to their evaluation or anything that they do with the job. It's meant more just as a support role. And like I said, the goal of the program is to sort of be a light touch in help that people need. So we're not, so that takes the pressure off of the new hire about the questions that they ask us, because we are not generally sharing information that we talk about with the supervisor unless we've gotten permission from the new hire to go, you know, to say, is it okay if I share this with your supervisor or get some input from your supervisor on this? But that's a good question. Yeah, we really tried to take that piece out of it. So the person felt 100% confident in asking the questions, that they wouldn't be judged by the questions that they were asked or asking.
Okay, next is from Nicole Montgomery. In the essence of people quit the boss, not the job, it would be interesting to investigate performance reviews of the supervisor along with the buddy program and retention. I guess that's more of a comment.
Yeah, that would be really interesting. I know at my university, we do exit interviews, but that's with the person leaving. So maybe we could do exit interviews for the people that reported to them. I don't know. That would be really interesting. But yeah, I think that that's all part of it. You know, retention is, it's not just the employee doing their job. It's like what other extenuating factors might have led to them to want to leave their position. And, you know, if you have a high turnover rate in a particular unit or place, you know, you kind of need to look at what might be some of the other confounding factors.
There's nothing else in the chat, so if anybody has any other questions, feel free to put your video on and ask. Well, I'm not seeing anything. Thank you very much, Dana, not Abby, Dana. That was a great, oh, wait, Emily just asked one more question. Were there meetings of all the buddies and mentees?
No, Emily, we haven't done that. That's certainly something we could do. Only, you know, we've only had 3 pairings so far, but I think that would be kind of great for everybody to get together in a room and just talk about their experience. That's a great idea, and I'm taking a note on that.
Last call for questions. Not seeing anything. So our first lightning talk session will start in 8 minutes, 10 a.m. Mountain, 11 a.m. Central. So take this time to go get some coffee, walk around, have a short little break, and we will see you all in 8 minutes.